Imagine for a moment that much of what we were taught about the words of Jesus was merely a surface, a carefully selected literal reading to maintain power structures, while the deepest, most transformative and revealing aspects remained hidden. What if what was forbidden, censored, or silenced for centuries actually contains the keys to understanding the true essence of the kingdom of God, a kingdom that is not external, political, or geographical, but an inner kingdom? Today, we will delve into this mystery, forbidden by the church, the hidden teachings of Jesus about the inner kingdom. And I promise you something from the beginning. What you discover here can forever change the way you understand spirituality, life, and the universe itself. And I assure you that the final revelation, the most powerful of all, will open a portal within you that you may never have imagined. Before we delve in, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share this video, because what we are going to explore together is not just knowledge. It is a transformative experience that needs to be expanded. What you will learn here can plant a seed of awakening in many other seekers of the truth. Now think about this. Jesus spoke in parables, in symbols, in metaphors. Why would such a clear and loving teacher choose to express himself in veiled words, often incomprehensible even to his disciples? According to the Gospel of Mark, he himself said, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God, but to those outside everything is told in parables." This phrase reveals an uncomfortable secret. Not everyone was prepared to receive the complete teaching. There were truths that could be misinterpreted, manipulated, or even dangerous for those who lacked the inner disposition to understand them. The canonical Gospels, approved by the Church, present us with a Jesus adapted and molded for doctrinal purposes. But the apocryphal Gospels, the Gnostic texts, discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, show a different face. A teacher who insists that the kingdom is not in temples, not in institutions, but within each one of us. In the Gospel of Thomas, attributed to the early Christian communities, Jesus affirms that the kingdom is within you and outside of you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. This profoundly transformative teaching was considered dangerous and heretical because it eliminates dependence on external structures and places the key to awakening directly in the hands of the individual. Do you realize what this means? The true church, according to this vision, is not a stone building nor an organized hierarchy. It is the living temple of the soul, the consciousness that opens itself to the divine mystery. And here arises a question I want to leave you to reflect on and answer in the comments. Do you believe that the inner kingdom Jesus spoke of can be experienced in your own life, here and now, without the need for intermediaries? Consider also how institutional power throughout the centuries has needed to control not only people's faith, but also their consciences. Inner spirituality cannot be controlled, possessed, or manipulated. That is why many of these texts were categorized as dangerous, persecuted, and destroyed. Saint Irenaeus of Lyons in the 2nd century denounced the Gnostics and their writings because they taught that human beings had an inner divine spark. The fear was clear. If everyone were to discover that spark, if everyone were to understand that the kingdom of God already dwells within them, the power of the institution would collapse. Here another fascinating aspect emerges. Jesus never spoke of a future kingdom as we understand it in human terms of time. When the Pharisees asked him about the arrival of the kingdom, according to the Gospel of Luke, he replied, "The kingdom of God will not come with warning." They will not say, "Here it is," or "There it is," because the kingdom of God is already within you. This statement, when taken in its depth, dismantles centuries of expectations about a political kingdom or a distant paradise. The kingdom, according to Jesus, is an accessible present state of consciousness in the innermost recesses of our being. Why were these words hidden? Why did the church for centuries prohibit or minimize these gospels? The answer seems obvious: because its power resided in the control of dogma And this dogma was based on the idea that only through the institution and its sacraments was it possible to access God, a teaching that placed divinity in the heart of the human being without the need for intermediaries directly threatened that power. The philosopher and scholar Elaine Pagels, a renowned researcher of Gnostic texts, explained that early Christian communities were far more diverse than we usually imagine. Some taught precisely this idea of an inner kingdom and profound self-knowledge as a path to the divine. And it was precisely these communities that were persecuted and silenced until their voice was buried under centuries of censorship. Imagine how history would have been if these teachings had been accepted and transmitted. Perhaps today our spirituality would be freer, more intimate, less tied to external structures, and more focused on inner transformation. Jesus, in this reading, did not come to found a rigid religion, but to awaken in each person the awareness of their union with the divine. And that is a revelation that resonates strongly even today. We are just beginning this journey, and what will come in the next part will be even more revealing, because we will not only explore what was forbidden, but we will also enter into the mystery of how these teachings, hidden things, show us an inner map to true enlightenment. And remember, the final revelation will be the most powerful of all, the one that can radically change your understanding of who you are and your place in the universe. Let's think about something essential. If the inner realm is an accessible reality in the deepest part of the human being, why have so many lived without discovering it? Why, throughout the centuries, have millions of people looked outside for what was already within? The answer lies in the veil of forgetfulness, in the layers of cultural, religious, and social conditioning that taught us to look outward, to depend on intermediaries, to believe that salvation is an external event and not an internal awakening. The Gnostic Gospels and the teachings attributed to Jesus outside of official texts reveal a different truth. Human beings carry within them a divine spark. The Gospel of Philip, for example, affirms that what you see, what you experience, is what you yourself have created within. This leads us to a radical understanding. External reality is nothing more than a reflection of our inner reality. The kingdom of God is not a place reached after death, but a state of fullness that can manifest here and now when we awaken to that sacred spark. Think about how many times Jesus insisted on the metaphor of the seed, the mustard seed, the seed that falls on fertile ground, the seed that grows in secret. All of them point to the same thing. There is a divine germ in the depths of every human being, that which, when nurtured and awakened, becomes an immense tree capable of transforming our entire environment. Is this not a way of saying that the kingdom is already sown within us? The scholar Rudolf Bultmann pointed out that many of Jesus' sayings should not be understood in a literal but existential sense. When Jesus speaks of the kingdom, he is speaking of an inner experience, a transformation of being. This reading coincides with what the Gnostic texts reveal, that true salvation is not a future promise, but a profound knowledge of oneself. Here another powerful reflection arises. What if what was called sin for centuries is nothing more than the forgetting of our divine nature? And what if true redemption consists of remembering who we really are, in awakening from the illusion of separation? If we accept this, then everything changes. We are no longer fallen beings waiting for an external rescue, but sleeping divine beings called to awaken to the light that has always been within us. The depth psychology of Carl Gustav Jung offers a fascinating bridge with these teachings. Jung spoke of the process of individuation, the path by which the human being reconciles with their unconscious and discovers the totality of their being. He saw in the Gnostic texts a temporal wisdom that coincided with his own vision. The human being carries within them the archetype of the self, which is nothing other than the image of the divine within us. For Jung, the Gnostics understood that true salvation is self-knowledge, and that this self-knowledge leads to the discovery of the spark. Imagine how these ideas transform the way we live. Spirituality is no longer about passively waiting for a miracle or blindly submitting to external dogmas, but about looking inward, exploring the mystery of consciousness, and allowing the hidden light in the heart to expand. This explains why these teachings were seen as a threat, because they gave the individual immense power, a power that could not be controlled by institutions. Let me ask you a question to answer in the comments. What does the idea that the divine already dwells within you mean to you? How would your life change if you began to live from that certainty instead of feeling separate and dependent on something external? Jesus spoke of the kingdom as a treasure hidden in a field, like a pearl of great price for which someone would sell everything they own. This symbol is profoundly revealing. The kingdom is hidden but accessible. It requires seeking, surrender, and decision. It is not something imposed from the outside. It is something each person must discover for themselves. The Christian mystical tradition, though often persecuted, kept this vision alive. Masters like Teresa of Avila spoke of the interior castle where the soul journeys through ever deeper mansions until it reaches union with the divine. St. John of the Cross, with his dark night of the soul, described the process of inner purification necessary to open oneself to the mystery. These testimonies, although framed within orthodoxy, resonate with the original teaching. The kingdom is within and is only attained by traversing the inner journey. Another crucial aspect we cannot forget is that these teachings do not deny external reality but transform it from within. If you discover divinity within yourself, your way of relating to others, to nature, and to the entire universe changes radically. The inner realm becomes the outer realm when consciousness awakens and begins to radiate passion, love, and wisdom. That is why Jesus said, "Hey, by their fruits you will know them." The same fruit is not a dogma or a ritual, but a real transformation in a person's life. And this transformation begins within, in the encounter with the kingdom. Now, having reached this point, we are just opening the door to mystery. What we will explore in the next part will be even deeper, because we will enter into the relationship between these hidden teachings and the notion of spiritual freedom. We will see how the true message of Jesus was not to establish a system of control, but to liberate humanity from all internal and external chains. And remember, the most shocking thing is yet to come. The final teaching, the most powerful of all, still awaits us at the end of this path. Imagine for a moment what it truly means to be free. I'm not referring to a superficial freedom, the possibility of choosing between one thing or another, but to the deepest freedom, the freedom to be master of your own conscience, to not be a prisoner of fears, guilt, or dogmas imposed from without. And what if the hidden teachings of Jesus about the inner kingdom were essentially a path to that absolute freedom? If we look at history, we will see that institutional religion, many times spirituality, was transformed into a system of control. The fear of hell, the dependence on the sacraments, and blind obedience to human authorities became pillars of a faith that, instead of liberating, ended up imprisoning. However, the hidden texts and the apocryphal Gospels show us a different Jesus, one who affirms that the kingdom is already within, that the light does not belong to any institution, and that every human being can access the truth for themselves. The Gospel of Thomas contains a profoundly revealing saying, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Here there are no external rituals, no hierarchies that grant salvation. There is a direct call to inner awakening, to bring to light what has been hidden deep within the soul. This idea is radical because it transfers all responsibility and all power to the individual. The theologian Hans Jonas, a specialist in Gnosticism, explained that the great fear of the church in the face of these currents, the point was that they were eliminating mediation. If each person can directly access the divine, what is the point of an institution that sets itself up as the guardian of salvation? The answer was obvious. Those teachings had to be censored, persecuted, and prohibited. And so, for centuries, Only a partial version of Jesus' message was transmitted, while the most liberating one remained in the shadows. Think about this: when Jesus says, "The truth will set you free," he is not talking about political freedom or mere social independence. He is speaking of an inner freedom, a liberation from the chains of ignorance, fear, and self-deception. This truth is not a magic formula, but a direct experience of the inner realm. Here we find a point of union with the wisdom of other spiritual traditions. Buddhism speaks of the awakening of nirvana as the overcoming of illusion. Hinduism teaches that the Atman, the true self, is identical to Brahman, the supreme reality. Hermeticism, so influential in Gnostic currents, also teaches this. It is said that what is above is like what is below, and what is within is like what is without. All these traditions converge on the same intuition. Divinity dwells within the human being, and knowing it is the key to freedom. Modern psychology has also recognized this yearning. Abraham Maslow spoke of self-actualization as the highest point of human development. Viktor Frankl, from his experience in concentration camps, pointed out that the profound meaning of life is found in the spiritual dimension, in something that transcends the purely material. These modern intuitions converse with ancient wisdom. The inner realm is the source of meaning, fulfillment, and freedom that nothing external can destroy. Let me ask you something that might stir your soul. What chains prevent you from discovering the realm that already dwells within you? Are they fears? Are they inherited beliefs? Are they guilts that don't belong to you? If you could rid yourself of all that, what version of yourself would emerge? Reflect on this and share in the comments, because your testimony can inspire others on this path. Another key aspect of these forbidden teachings is that they show us a Jesus who is profoundly human and profoundly divine at the same time. A teacher who did not come to found a religious empire, but to awaken the divine spark in every human being. In this sense, the words, "You are gods," attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of John, take on a completely new meaning. It is not about arrogance or energy, but an invitation to remember our true nature. But here a paradox appears. This inner freedom is a gift, but it is also a responsibility, because if the divine dwells within you, then every decision, every thought, and every action becomes an expression of that spark. You cannot hide behind dogmas or authorities. The freedom offered by the inner kingdom also demands authenticity, awareness, and love. This is the reason why many seekers prefer the easy path of external obedience. It is simpler to follow rules than to look inward and confront the inner truth. But Jesus did not come to offer comfort. He came to offer truth, and the truth, though painful, liberates. In the mystical traditions of East and West, awakening is spoken of as a painful but necessary process. The ego resists. Shadows emerge. Illusions fall away. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night. The Sufi mystics described it as the annihilation of the self so that only God remains. The Gnostics spoke of traversing oblivion to recover original knowledge. All these expressions point to the same thing. The freedom of the inner kingdom is not an immediate gift. It is the fruit of a profound and transformative journey. We are reaching a decisive point. So far, we have seen how the hidden teachings of Jesus spoke of an inner kingdom, of liberating knowledge, and of a spiritual freedom that transcends all institutions. But the greatest thing is yet to be revealed. In the last part of this journey, we will discover the most powerful teaching of all, the one that the Church not only prohibited, but tried to erase from human memory because it radically changes the way we understand God. To Jesus and to ourselves, prepare yourselves, because what is coming is not only revealing, it is transformative. We have arrived at the most anticipated moment of this journey. We have explored the mystery of the hidden Gospels, the seeds of the inner kingdom, and the path to spiritual freedom. But now we must face the deepest revelation, the one that was carefully forbidden, persecuted, and silenced, the teaching that divinity is not separate from us, that the inner kingdom is in reality the full union between the human and the divine. Think about this. For centuries we were taught that God is on high, distant and unreachable, and that we are fallen, unworthy beings in need of mediation. But in the forbidden texts and in the words that survived in the mystical tradition, Jesus reveals something different. The divine is not an external power. It is a living presence within every human being. The kingdom is not there. It is here. It is not tomorrow. It is now. It is not outside. It is within. The Gospel of Thomas preserves one of the most striking sayings. I am the light that is above all. I am the all. The all has come from me, and the all has come to me. Break a piece of wood, and there I am. Lift a stone, and there you will find me. This passage, considered heretical by the Church, contains the final revelation. The divine permeates everything. Nothing exists outside of its presence. The kingdom is not a place. It is a state of consciousness in which we discover that the separation between God and us is only an illusion. The philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, although much later and within the Church, intuited the same thing when he spoke of the cosmic Christ, a presence that dwells in all of creation and in the heart of every human being. What the forbidden teachings already foretold is that Jesus did not come to found an exclusive cult, but to awaken the universal consciousness that we are all called to discover that inner Christ. This powerful and transformative idea was seen as a danger because if all human beings understand that they carry the divine within, external structures lose control. There is no longer a need for intermediaries, nor are there hierarchies that administer grace. Each person becomes a living temple, each life an altar, each act an expression of the sacred. But let me ask you directly, what would happen if you truly accepted that the kingdom of God is already within you, that the divine is not foreign to you but essential? How would your way of living, relating, and loving change? Share your reflection in the comments, because this inner dialogue can open doors in the consciousness of many others. Now we understand why these teachings were forbidden, because they radically transform the conception of spirituality. Jesus did not come to enslave with dogma, but to liberate with truth. He did not come to impose fear, but to ignite love. He did not come to promise a future, paradise, but to show that paradise already dwells in the human heart. The inner kingdom, then, is not a distant promise, but a present reality. And this is the greatest mystery. In discovering it, you not only recognize your union with the divine, but also discover your responsibility to manifest that kingdom in the world. Compassion, justice, and goodness are not external commands. They are natural fruits of those who live from the kingdom. Mystics of all ages confirmed this truth. Meister Eckhart said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." In this phrase, the entire teaching is contained. There are not two perspectives, not two beings, but a single consciousness that recognizes itself in the depths. Carl Jung also understood this when he wrote that the greatest spiritual problem of our time is that humanity has forgotten that it carries within itself the very image of the divine. And that is essentially the final revelation of Jesus, that the kingdom is not found by seeking it outside, but by remembering what we have always been. Now we can clearly understand the phrase that the church feared and silenced. You are gods. It is not a metaphor. It is not an exaggeration. It is an inner truth. We are sparks of divinity, fragments of the whole, called to awaken to that consciousness. And when we do, everything changes. Life is no longer a waiting, it is fullness. Death is no longer an end. It is transformation. The world is no longer a foreign place. It is the temple where the divine presence is revealed. This is the power of the inner kingdom. This is the forbidden teaching of Jesus, that you don't need to wait, ask permission, or fulfill external rituals to access God. You only need to awaken, remember, and recognize the light that already dwells within you, dear seeker. The journey we have traveled together is not an intellectual exercise. It is an invitation to enter yourself, to discover the hidden treasure, to ignite the divine seed that awaits the blossoming of the inner kingdom. Is not a myth of the past, nor a promise of the future. It is your deepest reality, here and now. And now that you know it, the decision is in your hands. Will you continue searching outside? Or will you dare to enter your inner self and discover the kingdom that you already are? If this message resonated with you, subscribe, share, and leave your comment. Not because this channel needs numbers, but because the truth needs to expand. And remember, the greatest teaching of all, the one that was forbidden, is also the most liberating. The kingdom of God is within you. Thank you for watching.